today I am very excited to have a dear friend, an amazing woman, Laura Burgis, Dr. Laura Burgis, as my guest. She is the president of the Human Value Center. I'm going to give you a little backdrop on her. It's only going to be a taste, and then we'll dive right into it. So she's the president of the Human Value Center. It's a B corporation that exists to provide workplace learning, training, assessment, and evaluation for organizations and communities committed to bringing about the best humanity has to offer. I love that. She has a passion for building innovative programs that support holistic human development, inclusive intellectual, social, emotional, and spiritual development. She sees her purpose in life as that of a catalyst for global, spiritual, and higher consciousness formation to bring the social cohesion as the vehicle to foster improved life experiences in individuals and within communities. Compassionate action is at the heart of her life's calling. Dr. Burgis has spent more than 25 years in higher education. Her research and publications have focused on contemplative education, holistic pedagogy, curriculum development which promotes self-knowledge and empathy, as well as social entrepreneurship and social enterprise. Now, that's awesome, and here's where it goes to just a whole other level. She is currently a trustee at Saybrook University. She is also a trustee for Momun Chango School for North Korean refugees that are in South Korea. She's a director for Our Lady of Assumption Catholic School in Claremont, a board member for Balthazar and Rose, a Los Angeles-based company which provides jobs for Syrian refugees seeking asylum in Tunisia, Europe, and the United States. She's also a trustee for the International Charter for Compassion. This is a social movement now in 500 cities worldwide, representing 660 million people globally who are dedicated to culture transformation. This is a woman who is using her superpowers for good. Laura, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, John.
Wow, right? I'm just so excited just to explore a little bit of, just get a little peek into some of what you're doing. And we always like to start by asking our guests to define success. Could you start with your definition of success?
Sure. My definition of success, well, let's see. I think it's about happy people. We all want to be happy. We all want to be loved. And in order to do that, we have to be validated in our values. So that's really why we started the Human Value Center, is to help cultivate that spirit of honoring and validating individuals, but as well the collective. I think for me to feel good about my organization, I really like for my people to feel that they can be their authentic selves. So you don't have to check your identities at the door. I learned that in the classroom for many years teaching at university. The model had typically been, come with your intellect, don't bring your baggage, don't bring your social identities. We're just here to instill information and you can regurgitate it back. But I found in working sometimes under the auspices of leadership development that really what people were hungry for was being able to be honored in their purpose. So I get excited when I think about sort of the journey that I've been on in developing these things.
And so we're going to come back to the Human Value Center, but can we get to the journey? Can you give us just again, after all of that you're currently in, how did it start?
How did it start? Well, when I graduated college, I attended a small liberal arts school in Rock Island, Illinois, Augustana College. I was a first-generation college student, and I just thought it was the most incredible experience ever. And I felt bad that not everyone had that. Got a job with a company called GE Capital, which was in the auto financial services, and I hope I'm not in trouble for saying this, but it was not a healthy culture. People did not like their job. We were basically required to charge people lots of interest rates if they were poor paying customers. No one felt good about their work. And furthermore, people wouldn't speak up about it in meetings. And so anyway, I would be taking classes downtown Chicago for essentially anything my employer would pay for, which was a lot of HR and community stuff. And when I was there, I arrived early one day and I found a book called Involving Colleges by Drs. Koo and Chu. And they wrote an entire book about all of the learning that goes on outside of the classroom and about leadership roles and being in clubs and organizations and the way in which post-adolescent early adults develop. And that is a big growing phase. So to honor that and the kind of growth that takes place there was really important to me. So fast forward, I was still at GE Capital, but I was able to convince my employer to start a community action team, so the GCAT we called it. And this was a way to let employees work together in community in the broader the city that we were in, painting houses for the elderly and doing things that mattered. So for me, success is about, you know, that personal ownership of being authentic and having purpose and meaning, but also being in connection with others. And so if you have those two pieces, I find that you're in a successful environment, and that makes me feel good.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and we're going to dive more and more into that. But so from there, then academia called to you.
Yes.
How did that transition happen?
So I got married, and my husband had an opportunity in Arizona, so I transferred my academic credits to Arizona State University and earned my master's in higher ed administration and my PhD in education leadership and policy studies, with an emphasis on human development. That was kind of cutting edge at the time. I found the toughest professor that I could find in my department, Dr. Laura Rondon, and to this day we are good friends. In fact, she's a faculty fellow with the Human Values Center. But she herself was going through some transition in her life. And we started looking at the different pieces, and how can we really honor, you know, she's a Latina woman who felt she was border crossing. And how do you honor all of the different identities that a person brings so that you feel validated? So I was able to cut my teeth in higher education starting at 25, working in student affairs, and then I was always teaching. And this is kind of interesting and tells you about the times. I was developing curriculum for the Barrett Honors College, which is an undergraduate college, and I had the luxury of developing seminar-style courses, 10 kids, 8 kids, and really get to know them well. Well, I say it's an interesting story because I had to couch the title of the course, Leadership in Action. But really what we were doing was a lot of deep inner work, and you know, you'd have kids who would say, well, I'm really passionate about music, but I'm an engineering major because my parents don't think I should, you know, pursue that. Not being able to honor their gifts. So that was a lot of fun, and that actually became what was called the Pat Tillman Foundation program. There was one of our former students had passed away in the line of duty, and he had been a really well-known athlete, so we were able to create greater opportunities to scale that to more than just 8 or 10 kids.
Yeah.
But you know, Arizona State's the largest public university or any university in the country, so it's nice that, you know, those were seeds that were planted to be able to scale those out.
And so that was as a young professor, and so you watched transformation happen in small groups.
Yeah,
So
I had the luxury of developing these sort of boutique programs, but I was always an administrator. So as I kind of went up the food chain in leadership responsibilities, the university became my living laboratory of what works and why aren't we doing this with our staff. You know, it seemed as though we were treating administration like a business, and you know, higher ed is an animal of its own. The power and privilege structures are unique in that faculty that have tenure have lifetime guarantees, and so you have junior faculty and then tenured faculty, presidents that come and go, and the students that come and go. So the culture is really a crazy dynamic. And I started recognizing the toxicity that can exist with the power differentials, as well as not honoring the whole person. So I was able to start sort of dabbling with, maybe before we start this meeting, we'll just take a minute of silence. Or, you know, you were asking about some examples earlier. We had an issue at one institution with a lot of gossip, a lot of backstabbing going on. So we put a big sign up, and, you know, the water cooler pledge, I'm not going to gossip. And anyone could sign it, no one was forced to, but everyone ended up signing it, and then people would call each other out if, you know, they got caught doing that kind of thing. That's just, you know, one little example, though, of where you can start chipping away at the negativity and bring the positive.
Yeah, I love it. And how was it received to have starting a meeting with a moment of silence or quiet?
Well, you know, that's a great question. Initially, kind of EBGB, what are we doing? Are you going to indoctrinate me with some kind of religion? But, you know, there was nothing. Well, what ended up happening is we started out with a minute of silence, just to transition from back-to-back meetings and just give yourself some headspace. Then people wanted to start bringing poems and, you know, reading a quote from something. And people started getting into it, you know, oh, I have something I want to share next time, that kind of thing. So that started developing culture and identity with the organization.
No, and that's anytime that you feel like another example of those coming through, because I think these are really powerful. A moment of silence turning into, I have something that I'd like to share. But even if it was only done as a transition from back to back to back to back, hey, let's just be here.
Right.
At a time, again, I'm not sure that meditation was as widely.
Mindfulness now is
Mindfulness
everywhere,
is
but it hadn't been
right
at that time. So to have the courage, but again, I was in a position of, authority to be able to say, hey, let's do this. So I encourage anyone, if you want to be able to see something like that happen, it really can be powerful.
Yeah, and that it can be couched. I think you used that as, you were doing transformational seminars under the guise of leadership development. Now you're doing personal transformation or cultural transformation also under the guise of let's just be present, let's just slow. So I think that's just a nice reminder too, if it's, because we may all experience cultures where just jumping all the way in to transformational work might not be the easiest next step.
Right.
But there could be little baby steps.
Right, and I think those baby steps are helpful because it does start to shift and people do grow and people change from that. So coming in a sari, one day and saying we're all going to start meditating would probably have been frowned upon, and it may have even created some kind of negative response to my own position. But that helps people have more courage too, talking about their inner life. And that's, I guess, part of my point about leadership development. We're holistic people, so that we do need to honor not just the intellect or the productivity or the bottom line or the impact, but how it's affecting people personally on a daily basis.
So one of the things I love about you is in academia, high in the throes of the highest echelon of academic work, that you are standing for and are a voice for a holistic person, for being with the whole person, not just the intellect, which I think my stereotype is a lot of very intellectual people are drawn into academics, and so that's a really comfortable place to stay sometimes. So often, my question is did you find a receptive nature for this idea of bringing the whole person into a world that was really predominantly?
You know what, we're just now getting to that space, and so some of the work that we're doing now with national programs rolling out, it is in large part because of the mental health crisis and the consciousness crisis, frankly, that we're in. Never before have our students felt so isolated. Faculty report feeling really disconnected. Again, the organizational model is in silos, and the nature of the work is typically alone. But now I believe we are at a point in time, and I think it took this shift in just what's going on in the world to say we've got to do something about this. We cannot continue to protect this dinosaur model. We've got to change.
So there's a growing tidal wave of openness. Is it has the momentum gotten there?
The momentum is really there is a niche of people out there, and it's so great to see the younger generation coming with this holistic mindset. And the theoretical framework that we use is called sente pensante pedagogy, thinking, feeling, that we need to be connecting heart and mind in all spaces, creating sacred space, even the physical location of a classroom. I love taking my students outside or breaking bread, at my home, and creating a different dynamic, not just coming and sitting in a sterile environment. So you're starting to see shifts in just the ergonomics and the architecture of facilities. And how do we do that online? Interestingly, we can build a lot of really powerful, very deep and dynamic communities online, which a lot of people who are older would say we could never do that. We need to be face to face. But if you can create a blended model and have both, that's what I think is ideal.